My husband cheated with my son's 18-year-old girlfriend, and I was shocked to discover all of his dirty secrets. It's still so surreal, even typing it out feels like some horrible nightmare I can't wake up from. My life, the one I thought was so solid, so built on love and trust, has shattered into a million pieces, all because of a betrayal I never in a million years could have imagined. It started with little things, I guess, the kind of things you try to ignore because confronting them feels too scary. My husband, David, and I had been together for 25 years. We built a beautiful life, raised two wonderful sons, Mark, who is now 18 and just graduated high school, and Michael, who is 22 and away at college. We weren't perfect, of course, no marriage is, but we were us. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our comfortable silence that spoke volumes. Lately, though, David had become distant. He was working late more often, his phone was constantly glued to his hand, and he seemed preoccupied. When I'd ask him what was wrong, he'd just brush it off, saying it was work stress or that he was just tired. I wanted to believe him, I really did. Suspicion is a nasty little seed, and I didn't want to let it take root. But the seed had been planted, and it was starting to sprout. Mark had recently started dating a girl named Sarah. She was sweet, seemingly a little shy, but Mark was completely smitten. He brought her around the house quite a bit, and David and I both tried to make her feel welcome. I remember thinking how nice it was that Mark had found someone he cared about. Sarah was young, of course, fresh out of high school herself, but she seemed mature for her age. David was always polite to her, maybe even a little overly friendly, I recall now with a sickening lurch in my stomach. He'd always ask her about her day, her plans for the future, and offer her help with anything she needed. At the time, I just thought he was being his usual charming self, the man I fell in love with all those years ago. Then came the night that changed everything. Mark had gone out with his friends, and Sarah said she was staying in to study for a summer class she was taking. David was supposedly at a late meeting, and I was enjoying a rare quiet evening alone, catching up on a book. Around 11, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I glanced out the window, expecting to see David's car, but instead, it was Sarah's. My first thought was that something was wrong, maybe Mark had gotten into trouble and she had come to tell us. I rushed to the door, my heart pounding with a sudden sense of dread. But as I opened it, the scene that unfolded before me was far more horrifying than anything I could have imagined. David's car was parked further down the driveway, hidden behind the garage. And there, in Sarah's car, locked in a passionate embrace, were David and Sarah. My world tilted on its axis. The air left my lungs, and I felt a cold wave of nausea wash over me. It couldn't be. This couldn't be real. But it was. Their faces, illuminated by the dim porch light, were unmistakable. The shock was so profound, so utterly devastating, that I couldn't even scream. I just stood there, frozen, watching the two people who I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world betray me in the most unspeakable way. Sarah pulled away first, her eyes widening in horror as she saw me standing there. David followed, his face paling as he registered the scene. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the frantic pounding of my own heart. I don't remember exactly what happened next. It's all a blur of disbelief, anger, and a pain so deep it felt physical. I think I yelled, I think I cried. I remember Sarah running out of the car, sobbing apologies that meant absolutely nothing. David just stood there, looking lost and ashamed, which only fueled my rage. How could he? How could he do this to me, to our son? The next few days were a living hell. Mark came home later that night, oblivious to the bomb that had detonated in our lives. Telling him was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. The look of confusion on his face quickly turned to shock, then to utter devastation and heartbreak. He couldn't comprehend it, just like I still couldn't. His first girlfriend, the girl he was so excited about, and his own father. The betrayal was twofold, a crushing weight on his young shoulders. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Mark moved out, saying he couldn't bear to be in the same house as David. The silence in our home became a suffocating presence, broken only by my sobs and David's pathetic attempts at apologies. But the apologies were hollow, meaningless in the face of such profound treachery. And then, as if the universe had decided to twist the knife even further, I started finding things. Little things at first: a new, expensive watch that David claimed was a gift from a client, but I found the receipt hidden in his sock drawer, purchased weeks ago. Then there were the unexplained charges on our credit card, fancy restaurants, and weekend getaways I knew nothing about. Driven by a desperate need to understand the depth of his betrayal, I started digging. I checked his emails, his text messages, places I never thought I'd stoop to, but the need for answers was all-consuming. What I found was a web of lies and deceit that stretched far beyond Sarah. There were other women, multiple other women, all younger, all seemingly disposable to him. There were secret bank accounts I knew nothing about, stashed away offshore. There were business deals that seemed shady, bordering on illegal. The man I thought I knew, the man I had spent my entire adult life with, was a complete stranger. Every layer I peeled back revealed another ugly truth, another shocking secret. It felt like my entire marriage, my entire life, had been a carefully constructed lie. And then came the biggest shock of all, the one that truly made my blood run cold. Amongst his hidden documents, I found a file labeled Property Holdings. Inside, there were details of several properties I knew nothing about. And one of them had Sarah's name on it as a joint owner. He had bought her a house. A house, while his own son was saving up for a down payment on a small apartment. The audacity, the sheer callousness of it, took my breath away. It wasn't just a fleeting affair, it was something much more significant, something calculated and cruel. It was a complete disregard for me, for our family, for everything we had built together. The shock of this discovery sent me reeling. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, with no land in sight. How could one person be so deceitful, so manipulative? The man I loved had morphed into a monster before my very eyes. I confronted him with everything I had found. He didn't even try to deny it. He just sat there, his head bowed, finally admitting to everything. The years of lies, the secret life he had been leading, it all came pouring out in a torrent of pathetic excuses and self-pity. He claimed he was unhappy, that I hadn't paid him enough attention, that he felt trapped. But his words were meaningless. The damage was done, irreparable. My heart ached for Mark, for the innocence he had lost, for the pain he was going through. It ached for Michael, who would soon have to face this devastating reality. And it ached for myself, for the years I had wasted on a man who was nothing like the person I thought he was. My life has been turned upside down. Everything I thought was true has been revealed as a lie. The future I had envisioned is gone, replaced by a painful and uncertain path forward. I've filed for divorce. There's no going back from this. The trust is shattered, the love is gone, replaced by a deep sense of betrayal and disgust. I'm sharing my story now because I need to process it. I need to feel like I'm not alone in this nightmare. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like this? How did you cope? What did you do? I feel so lost and broken right now, and I don't know where to turn. Any advice, any support, would be greatly appreciated. This is the most painful chapter of my life, and I'm terrified of what the next page holds. But I know I have to be strong, for myself and for my sons. We will get through this, somehow.